to the December 7th Committee on Finance meeting. It's our first ever budget listening session. And we're first going to call our meeting to order and approve some minutes, and then we'll get right to our listening session. I want to let everyone know you're being audio and video recorded. Thank you. So let's get a roll call for our counselors.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
And
Okay.
Councillor Nash.
Here.
I saw him, so I knew we were all here. Great.
Hmm.
So the next thing we have before our session is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting, the October 6th, 2022 minutes. So we're quite involved. Yes, I would entertain a motion on that.
Second it.
Someone has to,
I'll move that we approve.
great. And then we have a second from Vice Chair Labarge. Okay.
Yep.
So roll call for that.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
And Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Okay. Minutes approved, and we're moving on to our budget listening session. I'm just going to hold on, letting some people in. Okay. So we're going to try to keep it to 3 minutes. Comment to 3 minutes. We'll be here until everyone gets to say what they want to say. And it's really, I just want to, because this is the first time we're doing this, I just want to frame it that we're really just here to listen. We do have Director Nardi from our finance director here, and that's great. And she could probably make some clarifying comments along the way. And maybe we'll learn a little bit more about the budget as well. But basically we'll be listening, but we will be recording, taking good notes to share with our other counselors and the mayor's office. And if there's any comments on the school committee, if folks should know that, the city council, we approve the overall school budget, but we don't, the purview of line items for the school budget is the school committee and superintendent. It's their process, but I will share any comments about the school with them. So this is, I just want to give a brief history that this is something I know counselors from the past have wanted to do. Dennis Bidwell sent me an email today reminding me that this is something he had always longed for the council to provide some sort of more participatory way for our public and our community members to let us know kind of more broad strokes, kind of aspirationally what we should be thinking about when we go into the budget season, which then starts in January. And the budget, the budget process is sanctioned by our charter, and it's very clear and it's very concise, and we're not really trying to be part of that. This is really supposed to be a separate experiment, but it can inform our whole budget process. So with that said, I will look for either you can use the raise hand features, and I will do my best to look for physical hands if you're not able to do that. And then I would just say, if you could keep it around 3 minutes, that's great. Thank you. I see Josh Feldman. Oh, and also, I always forget, could you say your city or whatever part of your address you want to share with us? Thank you, Josh.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody, counselors. Thanks for putting this together. Excited to hear from everyone this evening and for a chance to talk about budget, which ultimately is about our values in action. I live in Northampton in Ward 3. Thanks, Councillor Nash, for sharing this around and getting me here. And connected, I'm on the school council for Bridge Street School, where I have 3 kids, a kindergartner, a 4th grader, and a 5th grader. I'm also a CEO of a small nonprofit, and I'm in budget season right now too. So just sending you all high fives on what ultimately are hard decisions that are not ultimately simple questions to answer, but often a bit of polarities where these interconnected priorities all affect each other, and there are hard decisions to make. So sending my gratitude as you do that work. And connected, I just want to advocate for the way we fund education locally moving into this budget season. And a couple of notes there. Certainly, we have statewide reform necessary to fix some of the challenges that we come up with year after year in our public education funding. And some of that is even underway with the Fair Share Act passed and the potential for a different budget equation for not just Northampton, but the whole state in the coming years. But we're not quite there yet. And that means this year, the way we look at education spending is going to be extremely important. And I'm advocating that we do not cut education spending from the levels of where it is now for a couple of reasons. One, our schools are doing fantastic with limited resources as it is, and our students' achievement is directly tied to those dollars. Money really matters in education. And unlike some things that money in will only get us as far as a year, every dollar that we put into education exponentially affects our community because we are training the next generation of leaders who will serve hopefully someday on this body, who will be hopefully our future mayors, and ultimately will hopefully be able to transform society and deal with the existential problems that they'll face. Connected. Funding education is a core part of the way we can put equity in action and equalize the playing field, regardless of the resources that the next generation is growing from. And when we cut funding in education, it disproportionately affects those that need it the most. And I'll just name two there that our children who cannot yet vote in our democratic process have a difficult time advocating for the exact resources that they need in processes like these. And I feel lucky to be a voice for how important that is. The last thing I'll say about the moment we're in right now is that as we go through a permanent superintendent search with a great interim superintendent and some principal transition, is a great way to create long-term retention of our leadership within our education system within Northampton, is by providing the resources those leaders need to make the schools continue to be great. So thanks for prioritizing education in this year's budget process.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Let's see, I see Susan, your hand was next.
Okay, I thought I saw Tina before me, actually.
Oh, I'm looking at our
Okay.
participant. Yeah.
Tina put her hand down. Tina, go ahead.
All right, Tina. And if you could just state your address or your city, would be fine.
Okay, I'm on Park Hill Road in Northampton. My name is Tina Ingman. I'm here along with others, I'm sure, to advocate for the idea of making 1 or 2 new positions in our city government dedicated to the transition to clean energy. This covers a lot of ground, including efficiency and electrification. I believe that paying attention to this transition will save taxpayers all kinds of money in the long run, and probably in the very short run as well. And we see right now innovation in the decarbonization space is accelerating and prices are coming down quickly. We have no idea what the next game changer is going to be. For example, cheap whole house batteries. We really need someone in our city government who can keep up with the rapidly changing landscape and quickly react to opportunities for our city, like grants and pilot programs at the state, federal levels, and perhaps partnerships with nonprofits and corporations. We need somebody who can sort out and promote the complex set of decarbonization incentives available to individuals and business owners. For instance, the new federal programs include huge incentives for switching from a gas stove to electric induction stove for free, even depending upon your income. A person in a position that we might have in government in our city might help orchestrate a program with other departments to get the word out for everyone eligible in our city. And this is a win-win, considering we now know that the chemicals from gas stoves can cause asthma. And maybe this person can assist with promotion for volunteers who will help others, for there are many who want to help if they would know what to do. In order to decarbonize, which means reducing demand with efficiencies and switching fuel source, we're going to need many more electricians, plumbers, and insulation installers. Can our region meet this need? I'm not sure how this works, but perhaps a person in this position could help facilitate grants for an expansion at Smith Voc, for example. We personally, my family had a long wait to get an electric hybrid heat pump water heater, which I'd like to recommend to anyone because it dehumidifies your basement as a side effect. It's amazing. And the demand is only going to increase with all the incentives that we have. So this is a jobs program, but could also help everybody electrify more quickly. And finally, I'm just going to say we're in an age of great change, and I want our city to be ready and nimble in order to take advantage of these changes to save taxpayer money, to help our city do the right thing in the face of dangerous climate change, and to have safer and better conditions for everyone.
Thank you so much, Tina. Okay, let's see. Susan, are you up now?
I guess
Yeah,
so.
I see.
Looks like
Yeah.
it. Okay, well, first of all, I think this was such a wonderful and democratic idea. So thank you, Rachel, and everybody else for calling us, inviting us to speak. And I want to appreciate the first two speakers. Public education, nothing more important than that, except maybe the climate emergency and public health. Those three things are so crucial. But what I would like to speak to tonight, I live at 319 Rocky Hill Road in Florence.
Thank you.
And I work with Climate Action Now and also Springfield Climate Justice Coalition. And Climate Action Now, among some other groups, was involved in putting together a new coalition, and we're calling it the Northampton Climate Emergency Coalition. And the main thing that we decided to work on, given the extreme urgency in addressing the climate crisis, is that we think that Northampton, and this is building on some of the things that Tina said, really needs to have a climate crisis director. I mean, lots of cities and towns across the state and in the country have one. In fact, our governor-elect has promised in her climate statement to have a climate crisis director at the state level. And we know that there's going to be funding, that there is funding at the federal level and the state level, as well as grant money to pay for this kind of a position. And the thing is, you need a person who really has the time and the connections and the resources to be researching all of that. And what we have a vision, I think, that's really exciting, that this would be a person who would come into the job, like what we would ask this person to do is to create a systemic and just equitable approach to the climate emergency in our city, and that this person would bring together our whole city in working on addressing the climate emergency, as well as working across all of the departments and agencies in city government. And what we're picturing is that this person would generate this very rich campaign. And of course, we would go for maximizing energy efficiency and transitioning to 100% clean renewable energy into city buildings, but indeed in the entire city landscape, so that we would, and the equity piece is crucial because there needs to be money to support people. It's really expensive to retrofit your house and buy all this stuff. And we know that there's money and support out there, but it's really confusing and hard to know how to access it. So we want to get everybody involved. We want to work with the schools and teachers and children. And not only do we see that we have to address the built environment, city-owned municipal buildings, but every building in the city, but also we need to amplify all the good work that's already going on to sequester carbon through our open lands and to protect our forests, because there's no technology that anybody has developed like a forest to sequester carbon. And we have trees and we have open land and ways to farm. So we envision both the drawing down of carbon and then the putting an end to the use of dirty fuels throughout our city. And we wanted to, we've been so saddened that Chris Mason is leaving us. He's done incredible work. And we were thinking, like Chris is the person who's led all the efforts for example, get our schools to become, cleaner places, greener places. And as we're reflecting on Chris leaving, it's like this bittersweet moment where he's leaving, but really what better way to honor Chris than to build on the work that he's done. And so, we would, we're thinking like, if we're dreaming big, really, we need a climate. The best thing would be if we actually had a whole department in the city where ideally we would have this new climate crisis person, and that we would also have the person who is going to end up trying to replace Chris, which is a tall order, and that this would be a way that we could ensure that we could, or if not ensure, we can maximize the opportunity for us to rise to this moment that we're in. And it is an incredibly urgent moment. It's hard to wrap our brains around the fact that things are happening really quickly in terms of the environment and that we're reaching tipping points. And so this is the time when we need to amplify and do everything we can. It's just urgent in this coming period. And it's not even like we have to convince people in Northampton, because I think there's a lot of interest and there is money out there, but we do want this to be considered in the budget. So I'm sure I've taken more than my time. And I want to give a special shout out to Rachel, who's been so supportive and really, given us a lot of encouragement, and to all of the city councilors, who some of you are here tonight, Garrett, Jamila, people that we've been able to meet with, Stan. I know we've met with almost all the city councilors, Marion, I hope I'm not missing anybody. You've been so receptive to meeting with us, and so has the mayor, and that's been really exciting. Okay, I'll stop here.
Thank you, Susan. You can go over if you give us lots of compliments. That's that'll be the new rule. I see the next hand I see is it Therese or Teresa? Would you say your name for me and your also your city?
Hi, yes,
Yeah.
I say Therese.
Therese.
Hammerly, and I'm a constituent of yours, Rachel, at 24 Hillcrest Drive in Florence. And I just wanted to say that I feel that it's very important for us to fund a climate emergency director position. And I think that the town should be generous with that offer so that we get a really talented person, because it's a tough job. And being a frugal person, it occurred to me that perhaps somebody was going to think about collapsing Chris Mason's job and the climate director position into one position, or perhaps take those two full-time positions and want to make it less than two full-time positions. And I would just like to ask you not to do that, to fund at least two full-time positions for this very important work. And I also wanted to say that the way I see this is that there is federal and state money, and fortune favors the people that are the municipalities that are prepared, and we really need to be able to have a plan in place to receive that money and use it as effectively as possible, and that takes staff. And I think it would be a loss if we let that go by. That's all.
Thank you so much, Therese.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. I see Adele Franks has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for arranging this listening session. I really appreciate that. And I would like to amplify some of the points that Susan Theberge has made. And also to give a wider perspective, you know, those of us who live in Northampton think of ourselves and our city as really progressive and on top of things and a model for everybody else. But what we're learning as we learn about other municipalities around the state and also in other states is that we're actually not all that progressive on climate issues. We're kind of behind other communities, and I think it's imperative that we correct that. We certainly have established some lofty goals under our previous mayor, and that was wonderful and very encouraging to see. But I would like to see our current mayor become a climate hero and actually implement these goals, create timelines and measurable goals that we can assess our project, our progress on. And I would like to see us regain what we think of ourselves as, you know, leaders in this field. For example, other communities are not just focusing on municipal buildings as our community is, and that's really important and wonderful. And I fully appreciate all the efforts that Chris Mason has been putting forward. He's an amazing resource, and it's a terrible loss that he's leaving. But I would also like to see us branch out and consider all of the non-municipal buildings that we have in this city that are just begging for retrofitting to make them more energy efficient and to remove the fossil fuel use in those buildings so that we can actually reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So we have proposed, our Climate Emergency Coalition has been proposing a climate emergency director position for Northampton, and we still are. And then with the departure of Chris Mason, that gives an opportunity to, you know, reconsider how we are approaching all of this. And I just want to reiterate that we feel that at the minimum, 2 full-time positions need to be accounted for in the budget, and at salaries that are high enough to attract the kind of people that we would like to attract, as Therese said, and that these be included in the mayor's budget that the city council would approve, and that the city councilors do everything in their power to make sure that those positions are included in the coming budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adele. Okay, I see, George, your hand's up, I believe. George.
Yep.
Oh, how? Let me see. Oh, you're on. Can you unmute? Yes.
Okay, good evening, everybody. George Kohout, 234 State Street, and I'm here tonight representing the members of the Friends of the Northampton Trails. So I'm going a little bit away from our previous 3 speakers, but there's a connection to climate change, climate impacts, climate emergency for sure in my ask around the budget. But first, like many people, thank you very much for hosting this invitation, hosting this public hearing. I really like the message that the city budget is, quote, an expression of the community's values and aspirations. That's great. You know, and one of the most valued physical elements of our city is the 11-mile network of bike paths that are used by both residents and visitors on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. Since its beginning in 1982, 40 years ago, the rail trail has grown to be a really critical component of our city's transportation system, allowing people to get safely to jobs, schools, shopping, and more, all the while reducing car trips. And that moves us closer to our carbon reduction goals set out in the recent Resilience and Regeneration Plan. That's the good news. The bad news, and what brings me to this public hearing, is that one of the most critical sections of the trail from King Street west of Florence Center has been drastically deteriorating for the past 7 to 10 years. Built in 1982 to 1985, this original section has done its job, but now it needs a major rehab in order to continue to serve the city as a critical transportation artery. I don't have a dollar figure for this overhaul to present to you tonight. I realize it'll be a multi-step, probably multi-year project, but I know we need to begin the work now. I'm asking the city council to prioritize and advocate for this funding, whether it's through the annual CIP or additional funds to the DPW or a line item in the city budget. The Friends of Northampton Trails and many other users of the trail network also stand ready to assist with matching funds through fundraising and other means. We know that the city budget can't do it by itself. Throughout the region and the state, Northampton is readily identified as that place with the great trail system, as much for its progressive politics, its vibrant art scene, and its restaurants. We need to keep this city treasure, the rail trail, the bike paths, in top shape. And your support through the city budget process will be huge. So thanks very much for your time tonight. Thanks for listening. Thanks for putting this little ask on your plate. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Let's see. Jackie, Balance.
Yeah, Jackie Balance from Bay State Village in Florence. I want to thank you, Rachel. Also, this was a great idea, this public listening session. I appreciate what George said, and I appreciate what was said earlier about the school system. You know, we have pretty good priorities, but bottom line, I cannot amplify enough what Adele Frank said. If we don't survive impending climate chaos, school budgets won't matter. Rail trails, bike trails won't matter. Nothing will matter if we can't deal with the climate. So that's got to be the top priority. 2 positions, one to replace, you know, that Chris Mason. Yeah, he's a great guy. And one to be our climate, I hate to say czar, but the top of the climate chain to help everybody else stay in line with our climate goals. The city council declared a climate emergency in 2019, August. I was there. Again in 2021, I was on that Zoom. I haven't seen a lot of emergency reactions yet. This, a climate officer in the city will move in the right direction. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Joyce Rosenfeld, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. This is a simply wonderful opportunity. And thank you, Rachel, and other members of the City Council who are on this committee. I was very moved that Josh Feldman opened this meeting by talking about interconnected priorities. And everyone I've heard so far, and certainly amplified by Jackie's words, we have interconnected priorities. And truly, none of those priorities will have any significance if we do not fund a powerful position of a climate crisis director, whatever the title of that person would be. You know, it would be very hard for me if the city council approved a budget that did not give high priority in the budget to such a position, because without taking the measures a person who's educated and capable in this field. Without those measures, nothing else matters. And my heart then breaks for Josh's children. What did he say? First grade, fourth grade, fifth grade? Because that is our future. So thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see Saul Perlmutter. There you are. Hi. Hi, Saul. Good evening. Could you just state your city or your address?
Yes, I'm on Meadow Street. You're my city councilor, Rachel.
Yes.
Thank you very much for doing this. And I want to echo some of the things that have been said about the importance of what sustainable staff positions can mean for our city. About 8 years ago, there was a wonderful program, Go Solar, in Northampton, and it made it possible for many people to put solar in an affordable way on their homes. That was an initiative of the city. It was an initiative of city staff. And I want to say that since that time, I joined it then. And in my little home, we've generated over 40,000 kilowatts hours of electricity from solar, cleanly generated electricity, because of that city program. And there was another city program that happened later about mini splits, electric heating and cooling for homes, which was a city program that enabled us to put that in our home as well. So the city has done some wonderful things already around the environment, around energy, clean energy, that one staff person has made possible. So we've done some good things, but as I look around, I see plenty of roofs that could be wonderful for solar, and it's not happening. There's still much more potential, and it's urgent that we do it, not only in terms of city buildings, but as was said before, this also needs to be done from homeowners, for homeowners and with them too. Also in terms of transportation, which we know is a major source of greenhouse gases. We need to address those kinds of issues as well. And it happened, these wonderful things happened in the past because of staff on the city payroll. And I want to echo that I think if we had a full department, not just a staff member, but a full department that also has budgetary support. In other words, not only their salaries, but give them money so that they can initiate new projects. I think it would make a terrific difference for everyone in our city. We can breathe cleaner air. We can have electric charging stations increase so that we're hoping to have many more electric cars in all areas. So that's the thing that I think is important. And the last thing, maybe they could even work with folks like me, who's very grateful to the city for what saved me really a lot of money over the time, and ask us to chip in so that as a note of thanks, we could maybe chip in some money so that low-income folks could also be able to benefit from cleanly generated energy in all kinds of ways. And that's something I think that that could happen. And I think other people who've benefited from this, like me, will feel grateful and want to help and want to make this possible for all. So please, let's get a good department of sustainable energy, or whatever we want to call it. Let's give it a good budget. Let's have them get great grants for us, for the whole city, not only for municipal buildings, and for everyone. And even let's help out the folks who can't afford to do it on their own.
Thank you, Saul.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Wendy Foxman's hand. Good evening, Wendy.
Hello. I actually hadn't planned on speaking, but you know, Wendy Foxman, Ward 7. Thank you, Rachel. And thank you all for having this meeting. and allowing for the community residents to engage in a budget conversation about the city, which, yes, it is the policy document that tells us everything about what we value. Just occurred to me as people were talking that one of the programs that we used to have that I thought was really terrific and keeping in line with community engagement was the City School Project that under when Claire was the mayor, I think her assistant, put that program together. And I think something like that, whatever meets the time, would be a great thing to do to carry on this tradition of having public engagement, as well as bring more people in to serve on committees and boards, and get people who have opinions about things to understand the context of how the city government works in order to have an informed opinion about things. I do want to say I find the comments tonight about energy very compelling. I felt our energy office had a fairly low profile for quite some time, and so I support what I've heard tonight from people, so I think that's great. I have also very low profile as broadband. I've never hear anything about it. You know, we have this sort of, we're going to do a survey, then nothing, and so I'd really like to see, and I don't know what that involves, if much of anything in terms of city resources, but I'd really love to see that move along. And lastly, and Marianne knows that this, I'd really like to see, and I don't think this would cost any money, and I don't think we need a charter change, but I have real concerns about the city cemeteries. And I would like to see something like small volunteer advisory committees for the cemeteries. We go, you know, we have a departmental director who has a lot on their plate. And, you know, as with many cities and towns, if there isn't a sort of concerted group of community members to watch over cemeteries, they can be low on the priority list. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Let's see. It's what I call Jackie with a Q, Jacqueline's iPhone. You there, Jacqueline?
Hi, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Rachel, thank you so much for putting this meeting together, and counselors Nash, Labarge, and Moulton. And Laura, thank you so much. This has just been so wonderful, and I've so enjoyed getting to hear everybody's input. I have to agree with pretty much all of the comments that have been made. And I was taking a look at the budget, and I can't say that it's a very long document, but it seemed that the school portion of the budget is a hefty portion. And so I'm hoping that the state can step up its funding to kind of contribute to funding that important aspect of our community, and that aspect that requires so much funding. And that hopefully that can alleviate some of the pressure on property taxes, and or just free up some more sources of funding to go to other areas that really need it, such as climate. I'm also hoping historic preservation. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we're currently at 21% of our open land being conserved. I'm not sure if land conservation right now is at 21%, but I believe that's the last statistic that I've read. So like others expressing themselves here, I'm really interested in Northampton prioritizing sustainability, you know, being able to respond effectively to intensifying climate crises, deep energy retrofits, renewable energy and energy efficiency in existing buildings that are historic and not historic, and in new construction for sure. This forum is so wonderful because we as citizens don't have a lot of opportunity to engage in back and forth dialogue with city staff. I know that I've been trying to do that with Carolyn Mish, and that a bunch of Northampton residents are concerned about excessive and inappropriate infill, wanting to establish neighborhood conservation districts, which would, if we ever got to that point, would need a commission for each neighborhood conservation district. So that would probably eat into budgets. But there's ways that, you know, if we can work effectively with city staff, like in meetings such as this, you know, we could even not need those if the lines of communication were more open. So Rachel, I'm just so utterly thankful to you for putting this together, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Jackie, will you just say your address or your city?
Oh yes, I'm at 124 North Street in Ward 3 of Northampton.
Yeah, thanks again, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. I'll just check for some hands. I don't see any hands. I'll hang out for just a minute in case someone does raise their hand, but I'm finding this very exciting to hear all these great ideas.
I don't see any
Oh,
more
I
hands.
see one more. I see Sharon Moulton.
Oh,
I knew if
yeah.
I jabbered on, someone would, you know, put me out of my misery. Thanks, Sharon. Welcome.
Hi.
Good evening.
I live in Rachel's Ward 7B in Leeds. And I just I'm here because I'm part of Climate Action Now and part of the Climate Emergency Coalition. And I just hope that people making the budget are going to show that they prioritize the climate emergency that we're in and create a budget with positions that will help us deal with that emergency. So people have said a lot of things, but I didn't want to be here without saying why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Excellent. Thank you. I'm just going to come over again. And counselors, if you have any thoughts or clarifying questions for the finance director, feel free to raise your hand. I'm really grateful for this evening as well. I feel like it's such a simple format, but it feels really fundamentally different. It feels like sometimes these straightforward, simple changes can make really fundamental shifts, and even the way we think about the budget. So I'm really grateful. I find this, you know, just very kind of energizing to think about ways our community can, the things we're doing well, and the things that we could be doing better, or the ways we could expand. So I'm really very grateful to have, it was short notice, so I'm very grateful to have community members participating. We also got a lot of emails today, people weighing in that way, and I'm glad for that too. And hopefully next year we'll have a little bit more leeway to get the word out as well. Vice Chair Labarge, did you want to say something? Did you have your hand up? Vice Chair Labarge, hi.
Hi, thank you. I want to thank all the residents tonight that came forth to speak. And, you know, I've been thinking and thinking and thinking about a director. We know Chris Mason is leaving. We've lost a person who's worked very tirelessly with climate in our city. And a former councilor, Dennis Bidwell, emailed all of us councilors. And I have to say tonight, Councilor Jim Nash and I remember when that councilor asked about bringing forth a finance committee of exactly what we are doing here, of letting the public come in and say where they would like to see their money, their taxpayers' money, being placed in the budget. We look back of what we did with all the open public hearings of people asking for us to open up a brand new center. our resilience center. It took the voices to go ahead and form the police commission. And I think we need to start looking here. We're going to have a position that we're going to have to fill. Somehow that money is going to come out of the budget anyways. So I think what I heard is Dell talk about and everybody else tonight of looking at making a position in the city who will handle and being a very expert director on climate change. And I think we can do this with our mayor. We're going to have to work together. There's no question about it, like we did with designing the police commission. That's how we ended up of having the money by grants going out and getting it, and the mayor working very hard to make that happen. So that's what I'm looking at in my heart. I think we can move this way, councilors, of looking at forming a commission on climate change and also hiring a director who is an expert of running a department like that. So I think we need to put two things here together, of forming another commission like we did with the police commission. And we got them tonight. They're here talking. They're talking always with us. And I think with Joyce, she was very serious about it. All of them tonight, every time that I've been on with them. And it's got to be done. There's no reasons why we can't. Hopefully working with the mayor of saying, this is what the voices are asking for, like with the police commission. So that's my thoughts about this. I think, Rachel, this is the best thing we've ever done. I would suggest if we could have another one like this, I wouldn't just stop here. Just let more and more people, I know several people that came to my house and talked with me. They're working the second shift. You know, they have to have a job. So I know what they want, and I've heard them talk about the climate change. And I've heard them talk about our streets with emails that we've gotten. But I think tonight we're hearing some very well educated, serious residents in our city of asking us in the direction that we should go. So I am hoping that all of us councilors, all 9 of us, can work with our mayor just like we did with David Narkowitz, and it worked. We opened up a new department with Sean Donovan, and then that went further with Meredith O'Leary as the commissioner. And now hopefully we're going to buy the church, and it's opened up the doors. So it doesn't happen overnight, but I think we should move on it.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
You're welcome.
Do I see any other counselors? Oh, I see Joyce has her hand up. So Joyce, why don't you have a comment?
It's more of a question for Councillor Labarge. Thank you, Councillor Labarge. And I'm wondering, you spoke of a commission and a department. We have envisioned a department, and I would like more clarification about how you're using the terms, if you don't mind.
How we do what?
How you're using those terms,
How?
commission and department.
Because we started, which you know, Joyce, we started with many people in the city with an outcry of forming a commission, okay, because of Black Lives Matter and because of what was happening. It was very serious. And so we went in and formed a commission, okay, applicants who applied to be on it. And what panned out of that, by having that, all the voices, all the members that were on that commission followed and worked with the mayor also with that commission. And what do we have now? We have a department.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I just want to finish and to say, we have so little time in the climate crisis. So I hope we can skip the commission and go right to the department.
I hope so. I can't answer to that one.
Thank you, Joyce.
Mhm.
Right. Just checking. Make sure I'm not missing any hands.
She's a sweetheart.
Counselors, any other comments? I guess, I guess we can,
Jackie
Oh,
had her hand up.
oh, she did. Okay, well, I see Counselor Nash, and then I'll find Jackie.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just
yeah.
want to thank everybody for coming tonight and for my colleagues on, our willingness to, have this process that it's been kicking around for a few years, and we're giving it a shot tonight. So I really appreciate everybody coming tonight and expressing their ideas. I just want to say, I heard everybody around supporting education, that we need to expand our climate crisis abilities with the city, that we need to really consider, taking care of our rail trail, our bike network, and that, yeah, so that these are things that I'll be bringing to people I talk with, it whether it be the mayor or people on school committee, and that and I think that's the intent, is to give us a little idea of what it is we as advocates, we are not the folks who we don't make the budget, we approve the budget. And that, but we can advocate for things along the way. And that, and I do think that these are ideas that are kicking around out there. I do have one question for Finance Director Nardi. She may know, related to, well, let's see, a few things here. First of all, in terms of the rail trail network, I don't have that would be under capital improvements, correct?
So yes, the
Yes.
rail trail is not involved in the actual operational budget.
Right. And do we have plans? Is there a budget line in there for rail trail repair or improvements, or is that, do we address things generally by getting grants to improve sections?
So yes, I think for the most part, the rail trail is done through grants, and it's done through specific projects, not an operational budget. I know DPW Director LaScalia probably has some things. She has broad language, which also supports the maintenance of some of the rail trails. But to speak specifically to that, I would ask Director LaScalia that. And I don't believe there's no specific capital improvement program project that addresses rail trails that I'm familiar with.
Okay, all right.
But that is something we can look into, and I can get back to you on if you'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. The other thing is a bigger question, and it was raised by Mr. Feldman. It has to do with, so the fair share amendment passed, and you as the finance director, when do you think we might be, or what's the news on when and what we might see? It's definitely not going to be this year, right?
Correct. Yes. I have no news to share. I have not heard any more how they would actually implement that, and how it would be directed to the cities or towns.
Right.
So yeah, I have heard nothing more than anybody else has. So I'm
Okay.
sorry. I wish I had more to share.
No, I wish you did too. And I know it's not for lack of listening.
Right. And so you're right. I don't think we're going to see a lot maybe for budget FY 2024, but I could be wrong about that.
It would be great to be wrong, right?
Absolutely. In that case, yes, I would love to be wrong.
But it looks like for the coming budget year, we're probably on our own again with the same funding levels from the Commonwealth, right?
Yes, looking at what I'm looking at now, yes, we're not looking at, yeah.
Okay, and then I had another question. It's probably more in Alan Wolf's department, but we, relative to Wendy Foxman's question about broadband, right now, we're still waiting to hear back. We have a consultant that's working on the viability of a broadband network here in Northampton. I should be asking Alan Wolf, correct?
So yes, I know that there is a report that is being generated. I have not seen the final version of it yet. I believe that's coming out of the ITS department.
Okay. All right. I think that's what I have. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Charlene, for answering those questions.
Okay. Oh, yes, Director.
And I, just on behalf of Mayor Shara, I would like to thank everyone as well this evening for coming and sharing your thoughts and ideas and priorities for the budget. I know the councilors and Councilor Maori and President Councilman Nash will bring forward all of your ideas, but I also have been taking detailed notes and I will bring them forward to the mayor as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could be here tonight with us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments before we wrap this up? This has been, wow, this has been an excellent evening. Oh, I see a couple of comments. Yes, Jackie Balance.
Yeah, this feels like democracy. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Jackie.
Good to hear. And Joyce.
I agree with Jackie. And I just want to say in terms of the woman who spoke about cemeteries, you know, many cultures honor the days of the dead, and they go to the cemeteries and they groom the graves of their beloved, and they have picnics and balloon sellers and ice cream. And so it sounds like this is something that's being thought of again in terms of this volunteer corps to tend our cemeteries, honor our dead.
Thank you for that. I can tell that Wendy worked in municipal government because she comes with items that don't cost very much. Volunteer advisory boards and bringing back the city school. Councilor Nash, I recall the city school is a civic education program. Was it fun? Do you happen to remember how it was funded? I'm just curious. It was before I was on council.
I don't remember how it was funded. I think it was largely driven by a department head stepping up and picking up pieces of the curriculum. And I also know that NAM is very interested in also putting together like an electronic version of city school so that people can access it anytime they want. But in terms of, that was on my list. I forgot to get to it. And that's a great question we can bring to the mayor to see where that might be. I know it's been in discussion, and so and NAM is very interested in taking the lead on that. So
yeah, okay. I'd like to see like Schoolhouse Rock form, you know, that kind of thing. Or councils look really cool, you know, the cartoon or whatever. No, but that sounds, I've heard that about city school before, and it always intrigued me, especially as we've been unpacking the kind of equity on boards and committee, you know, as a subject matter. So good to hear about that again. Okay, I can't tell if Joyce, did you re-raise your hand? No, okay.
I think Joyce has got her hand up.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't want to, I think, all right. So I think that we're all wrapped up. So, you know, oh wait, I see Ben Wild. Did you have something that you wanted to add?
I'm sorry, I think I misread the time. So if you're about to close, I just missed my moment and I'll back off.
Well, if you want to say, you know, if you want to say something brief, well, we're all here, and then we will probably wrap it up. But
go for it, Ben.
So I'm really sorry about messing this up. So I just wanted to bring up two subjects one on a spending side and one on a potential revenue side. On the spending side, I would like to advocate for more operating budget for the DPW, specifically for road striping or line striping, which seems like a small thing, but it's one of the key tools they have available to them to deal with traffic calming and to increase pedestrian bicycle safety. And so that's one of the few things that if you increase that one little part of their budget, they can do a lot with it for safety. And obviously I'd love to see more in capital cash, because I know that there's a small apportionment for them that goes towards essentially planning and studies for traffic calming. So that's on the spending side. I think I also have a way to pay for it, which is, as many of you know, there's been a lot of discussion about how to allocate parking in downtown. And one of the mechanisms is to use pricing as a way to allocate parking better. In other words, we have plenty of parking, but we undercharge for it, and we don't enforce it at the right times. In other words, when there's peak parking demand, it's free, and therefore people will sit there as long as they want, and that actually leaves fewer spaces available. So, and we've had a few consultants in 2015, we had a report, and then we recently had another consultant give a presentation, all driving towards the idea that you can basically use parking pricing to allocate parking spaces better. So that's the basic idea. And one of those things is that right now we give the first hour in the parking garage away for free. In order to motivate people to park in the parking garage instead of on the street where it's a higher value parking spots, all you need to do is have it cost significantly less. So my proposal for you all to consider is instead of having the parking garage for free, you would reduce the price to 50 cents, but charge it during the first hour, because a lot of people leave in that first hour. So you're missing out on all that potential revenue. And 50 cents doesn't add up to much. So I did some numbers, and I'll share, if you want, I can share all my calculations. But enforcing at the times when the 2015 consultants suggested enforcement, basically shifting enforcement to later in the day, through 8 o'clock instead of stopping at 6 o'clock, changing the pricing to what they suggest, even though I think that that's probably too low for the peak parking hours, and then adding this component that I just discussed about charging less, but charging for all hours in the parking garage, results overall in about a 40% increase in revenues from parking. So that goes from the projected 1.2 million to, in my estimation, my model, of about 1.7 million, which gives you about $500,000 that you could put in towards, I don't know, traffic safety.
True.
Well, thank you, Ben. I love when residents come with their own money. That's, their own source of revenue. That's didn't even dream that big, but that was very interesting. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us. Yeah, Councilor Nash.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to what Ben was talking about. Yeah, the line striping is a great idea. It's a cheap way to improve roadway safety, and I think that's a great idea. We're in the process of approving the mayor to have so we are going to be shifting those enforcement hours where people are paying for parking to 8 o'clock at night, and that we're going to have a fee structure that goes up and down. And we're waiting for the mayor's office to get back to us with the final details, because it involves staffing as well. So that should be, so that is on the way. And whether it'll result in $500,000, let's hope. And then we could possibly talk about, that's an interesting idea of having that any surplus is there, steered back into roadway safety for folks. So.
It's a big theme, traffic calming and roadway safety. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, Jacqueline, I think you have your hand up. Do you? No.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
yes.
you. Takes me a moment to unmute.
No, that's okay.
Thank you. Another resident had once brought this up. I'm thinking, it's wonderful that the city might be able to purchase the First Baptist Church, which is one of Eric Sewer's longstanding vacant properties. This other resident had once mentioned, I don't know how, if this even would be possible, but the city somehow encouraging downtown building owners to not let their storefronts sit vacant, or to even impose like a fine or a fee if it goes on for a set period of time. And I guess the city would be able to determine what that was, as that could be like a detriment to the downtown. So just the 2 cents there.
Thank you, Jackie. I remember my first term looking into that, and I don't know if any of the counselors or the director remembers the answer. There was some limitation at the state level about taxing vacant storefronts. Does anyone know that? Remember that answer to that?
Well,
yeah, Counselor.
Yeah. So, yeah, I remember talking about this with Attorney Wald, and that there are limitations to how much we can fine somebody for not occupying their space. And it also gets into kind of shady, it's unclear territory. The one thing I will say is that when somebody is not renting their spaces downtown, they are already taking a huge financial hit. I mean, we are talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And that in terms of the business model that people are using, where they have their space vacant, it really doesn't make sense to a lot of business people, because when you have commercial property, the way you make money is by renting it. And so it's what part of what's going on for our downtown is kind of a mystery. And I do want to say that what the mayor's office and other city department, that in terms of the Baptist church, that it's a really wonderful opportunity in terms of the resilience hub getting started up, but also taking one of those properties that has been underutilized for over 30 years, and that it's really terrific. And that I'm hoping that more developments like this will occur. But I think it's really great. But back to the original thing, that what a property owner is doing to themselves by not renting the space, even at a lesser rent, is kind of self-imposed. And so a couple of $100 a year is nothing compared to what somebody could make by renting a downtown storefront. So.
But Councilor Nash, I'm sorry. Go on, Jackie.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think there's some amount of write-off, right, for the losses that they, but what you're saying is it wouldn't be as much as they obviously could make by renting. Is that what you're saying, Councilor Nash? Because I mean, they can write off their losses, in terms of taxes.
You're absolutely correct.
I've talked to a lot of business folks over the years, people who own commercial property. I mean, if you talk to people who own property downtown, it's a head scratcher as to why somebody would, sometimes it's hard to rent a space. And there are folks who work to rent their spaces, and it may take a while. But when it's a long-term vacancy going back a number of years, it's a head scratcher for business people. So I mean, yes, you can write things off, but
Wait a minute.
in terms of why not make money? I mean, that's.
Because apparently they don't need it.
Okay.
Right, yeah,
I had a loss, but you didn't need to take a loss.
right. So what's that about? I don't know. I think that's why that's why I think people are bringing it up a lot, because
It is a big loss.
illogical, right? Jacqueline, did you have a follow-up comment?
You just spoke it perfectly. My whole
Oh,
thing
okay.
about the right off you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, yeah, I think I have a hard time imagining, being an owner, owning multiple buildings, and what the motivations might be. But yes, that theme, I've heard that before, and I understand. And then I've also heard about, if you're going to have a vacant building, at least perhaps incentivizing them to allow artwork to be put in it, or somehow make the space while it's vacant at least a little bit more serving the community. So
Yes.
people have gotten creative about that idea too. I thought that was interesting. Can you incentivize them to at least kind of, do some serve the community in some small way with their vacant building?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Councilor Labarge?
Yes, in regards to Jacqueline speaking and everything, take a look at Cereals Market. A wonderful store, wonderful location, and there's no movement there. So we know that it's become very, very difficult for businesses here in the city of Northampton and in Florence of even attempting to get back on their feet, and they're trying. But when you look at Cereals in the location, I'm surprised that has not even been sold or rented. So there's another one sitting there. And I've talked with a couple of lawyers myself about it. And it's the type of situation that we're in. We're into an inflation. There's no question about it. And as far as the other situation that Councilor Nash was talking about, apparently some people have a lot of money, Councilor, so I guess they don't care. And Rachel's right, it's a write-off for them. What it is.
Okay, yeah. Beautiful
Oh,
spaces
Rachel, we don't
downtown.
have that kind of money to do that.
I know. Are we not? Yeah, exactly. Councilor Nash?
Yeah, I think I want to apologize. I think I got us a little off topic here.
Yeah,
That I think that we're devolving to a street conversation rather than a meeting. But I wanted to respond to Jackie's comments. Yeah, around, yes, it has been something that's been looked into, and yes, that there's a lot to say about it.
Yeah, well, it started out relevant because we were talking about possible revenue through taxing vacant buildings. So
Yeah,
that makes me feel
exactly.
better.
Thank you.
That
Thank you for
reminds me.
saving me. Councilor.
I declare it
Councilor
relevant.
Nash, I do have a question for you. Do you know anything about Cereals at all? Has anybody gonna rent that?
Well, I think that's getting off topic, like I was just
I know
saying.
it is, but you started that topic.
Oh, yeah,
So
all right, but
I'm
I'm
asking.
happy to talk to you on the phone about it. How's that? I don't know.
Well, then you do it then.
What?
I would appreciate it.
Let's talk on the phone tomorrow, okay?
All right.
I'm scanning, just so I'm doing a final scan here. I don't see any folks. So I think that yep, there's no hands. If counselors have no more comments, then I would entertain a motion. But
Yep.
Does Denise,
Oh,
you want to say
yes.
something? I saw her hand kind of go.
oh, I didn't see that. Sorry. But
Hi, I'm sorry I've joined very late, so I have no idea what's happened. I just, and I could just send you my comments, or I can read them to you now. I wanted to lend my voice to those asking that the budget reflect a priority to fund a sustainability office for the city. The departure of Chris Mason is a big loss. And hopefully we'll find someone who can fill his position. He's done an outstanding job leading the city on our path to sustainability. But his work has mostly been city buildings and procurement, and those are more than a full-time job. And now we need someone who can actually help the rest of the city, business owners, residents, to continue the work that needs to happen on a larger scale in order to address the climate crisis that we're in. We currently have a landscape of opportunity that's rich in possibility, but it's very confusing for us all, but for city department administrators, for businesses, for citizens. We are going to have opportunities to avail ourselves of funding, but we need somebody to understand which things are appropriate for us to apply for. And if we don't have someone in that position, we will be losing out. Other cities will get the funds and we won't. So I think the department would more than pay for itself in the advantages that it would acquire for the city by having someone whose focus can remain on moving us forward to get to our fossil fuel-free future. There are some changes that are coming down from the state. A report that was just issued by the Massachusetts Commission on Clean Heat issued a report November 30th, and they're going to be asking local governments to keep records and track our progress. And in order to do that, we're going to have somebody assign that task. The net zero building code will be released at the end of December, and it will take, and that's something that I hope that the city of Northampton will adopt. And when they do, that's also going to add a little bit of coordination and effort. But delaying just by a month to start requiring, or by a month to opt into the net zero code could mean 6-month delay or a year's delay. So we need to act quickly, because every year that we delay means many more houses that are going to have to be retrofit later, or buildings that are going to have to be retrofit later at a far higher cost than if we build them properly now. So the last thing I wanted to say is that our community choice aggregation application is hopefully going to be going up soon to the DPU, but the DPU has not been acting on applications that it's received from other communities. So the delay, because we didn't get on the board as quickly as others, has cost the city residents a lot. So other communities that have been in the CCA for a while are paying 1/3 of the cost of the energy that Eversource is charging, and National Grid. So, you know, we need to make sure that we're at the front of the line with these things, and that takes people and effort and coordination among the city offices. So I do hope that this will be a priority in the next budget, because the future of the city depends on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Will you state your town or city or
Oh, I'm
address?
sorry. I'm
Okay.
a Northampton.
I didn't-
I'm a Northampton resident. I live at 35 Woodlawn.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. All right, folks. Counselors, anything else? Director? Okay. Well, I think it's been a fabulous evening. If everyone kind of feels like they're ready, I'll entertain a motion, and I hope we can continue this and actually expand next year. And and I'll sit down with Laura and we'll kind of try to make some sort of report out of this. We'll talk about that, Laura.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, everyone, for organizing this. It's been a great opportunity. And
Yeah, it's been for us too, as well.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Yes.
second it.
Excellent. Okay, roll call. Laura.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
and Counselor Nash.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Nam. Thanks to our community members. Have a great evening,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.